Hey everyone, well, thank you very much for joining us today. We'll still have a few more people joining as we go along, but I think we should get started. So first of all, thank you very much for joining today. My name's Colin Derbyshire. I'm the Customer Development Manager for Viewpoint, and we're going to be talking today about the power of partner engagement in driving B2B sales. So we have two excellent co-presenters today who are going to be discussing the topic. We have Glenn Robertson, our CEO, and Mathew from Partnership Leaders. So I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves properly and hand over to Glenn, if that's okay.
Excellent. Very good, Colin. Thanks for the intro, and thank you all also for joining. Yes, CEO here and founder of Viewpoint here, and also CEO of Pure Channels, the channel agency. But thrilled to be joined today by our special guest, Mathew, who's CEO of Partnership Leaders. I'll let him introduce himself shortly. And special thanks really to Asher for taking the time out to join us today to discuss this really exciting topic, not only because he was one of the co-authors of the report that we're going to be discussing today, but also because he's busy preparing for Catalyst, the Partnership Leaders event, the world's biggest partnership event that's happening in Denver in a couple of weeks. Asher, hopefully you can hear, and hopefully you can join us and speak, even though we might be seeing that you've got some webcam issues. Oh no, there you are. Marvelous.
Hell yeah, good. I was scared. I was going to be letting into this own conversation myself. That was funny.
Yeah.
How's it going?
Yeah, we're doing really well, thanks. As I was just saying, thank you ever so much for joining us and taking part in the discussion today.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you could just do a short intro into who you are, what you do, and then we'll get into the meat and bones of it.
Super. Hey everybody, this is Asher. I'm the CEO of this company called Partnership Leaders. We exist to elevate partner teams around the world. The company is about 4 years old. It was a hobby for the first 4 years until it became so big that both Chris and I had to jump in full time. And now we have the pleasure of and honor of actually elevating both executives and professionals in partnerships around the world. And we have a number of programs, including, as Glenn mentioned, our marquee conference that's about to take place in 2 weeks called Catalyst.
Amazing, great intro. Thank you, Asher. I know you're busy, so we'll get straight in. So we're talking about partner-led growth today, and the impact that it can have on sales. Now, you of course co-authored along with Pavilion and HubSpot the recent report, State of Partner-Led Growth, which is incredible. I've read it, Colin's read it, and I'm sure, well, I hope a lot of the attendees today and those people that will review the webinar after we go out. But to add some context for those people that haven't seen it, ultimately, what is it and why did you create it?
Yeah, so if we just go back down memory lane a little bit to Q3 and Q4 of last year, in Q3, maybe like at the end of Q2, this whole thing about ecosystems became super hot and partnerships really started to like go get mainstream a little bit, right? And it was primarily tech partnerships that were starting to gain some momentum in the marketplace, because as you all already know, the channel partnerships has been around forever, and they provide a meaningful benefit in the pre-sales part of the customer journey. And so back then, between HubSpot and us, we realized that there was no high quality report that took a view on partner programs and operations from a tech partnerships perspective, right? So that was the goal of what we wanted to go do. And so we went and we did this survey that was taken by about 700 or so partner people. And then we came out with the State of Partner Operations and Programs, which is the first report, right? And what that report told us was like, hey, manage your partner types well, manage the partner organization well, here's who it should roll up to, here's the primary metrics and stuff. And so we got a really good view into what partner teams think where their partner programs are, right? And where their partner teams are, right? So then after that, in Q4 of last year, like the whole ecosystem movement got really hot, right? And so we said, well, let's actually get a temperature check on what sales and marketing think about partner teams and partner programs, because there was no, at least at the time, no current report that brought sales and marketing leaders together and got their viewpoint. And so that's how we started the project that ultimately became the State of Partner-Led Growth. But the interesting thing that happened is as many people that are in sales and marketing that are not in partnerships took the survey as many people that are in sales and marketing that are in partnership roles, right? So partner sales leaders and partner marketing leaders, sales leaders and marketing leaders both took this report, right? So it was like, at the time we were like, wow, what a disaster, because now we have this data that's all mixed up, right? And then we like started taking a look at the data, and it was interesting to kind of actually see what partner sales leaders and partner marketing leaders and sales leaders and marketing leaders thought about the same questions. And that's what the State of Partner-Led Growth report ultimately became.
Brilliant. No, really, really good. Thank you for adding the context. We've obviously got copies of the report. We'll send them around to all attendees and registrations after the webinar, along with some of the snippets that we take. So, you alluded to it earlier, and you mentioned it, which I love, because it's set up really nicely. Because why the focus now, right? Why partner-led growth, and why now? Because we have seen channel success, various different partnering success over the course of the last X number of decades, all the way back to the early 80s, right? And you mentioned it earlier in terms of traditional channel operation, traditional channel models that are working out through resellers and a number of different types of partners. So why the light now? Why is it just shining brighter? Is it a new light that's shining? As you mentioned at the end of last year, we've seen phenomenal focus on the new partnership sort of model, if you like, and the new emphasis. You've seen growth. You've got the guys, Jared and Isaac, going crazy on it from Partner Hacker, and now part of the acquisition they've been through. Alan Adler, Justin Zimmerman, so many of these other people that are key, compelling influencers and faces and voices within this partnership movement. So why now? What's happening?
Yeah, so I think the question becomes, we all put a lot of effort into saying that partnerships should have an impact across the entire customer journey, but there's no document that actually says whether that's actually happening or not.
Yeah.
Right. So that was actually really the crux of it, right? And if you think about it, in Q4, there were more CROs that were fired than CMOs, because the number one thing, at least in my opinion, that CROs get wrong is actually post-sales also. It's not like they get marketing wrong, they actually get post-sales wrong. That's like the number one reason why they get fired, right? And so then if we're all saying, hey, we want partnerships to have an impact across the entire customer journey, and then the other side that is actually responsible for the customer journey does not recognize it or see any results from the work that we've been advocating for, then it just means that we have to do more work. But we don't really know how much work you have to do until you go figure out a measure it. And there's a number of ways to measure it. We just took one where we wanted to have industry benchmark leaders, and that's kind of like the thing with partnership leaders, right? Like we really focused on like figuring out how to create industry benchmark leaders, and that's why we were able to get BCG involved. Like, again, at least for the time that I've been in partnerships, like I haven't seen reports where BCG was getting involved, or even McKinsey or Bain, right? Like those are the companies that are next on our list to go work with, and we want very high quality reports that come out that then our leaders or our members can take into their executive meetings and their C-suite conversations. And then partnership leaders itself, the organization, will start working with boards of organizations to like help them understand how to do modern partnering. And modern partnering, as you know, there's about 7 different partner types that we recommend people work through, and that's covered in this first report.
Yeah. And one of the other things that I think, if we come away from like the kind of the intro and the context now, and we can start looking at some of the results that the report has actually given us. We look at we look at budget. I mean, obviously within any organization, budget is a big thing. So are you seeing we saw in the report that over 40% of partnership leaders would want to dedicate a certain degree of budget to the partnership movement. It was between 10 and 25%. Is that good news, or did we think it was going to be more? What's your perspective on that?
Yeah, so I say anytime you can get budget is good news, right?
Yeah.
But the issue, again, the thing that we were trying to solve here is there's lots of different like flavors of partnerships and how to measure them and stuff like that, right? My view is like it's all about revenue. Then there's repeatability. You have to have rigor in the system so you can get to a respectable place. You have to build resilience, and then you have to recognize success, right? I know it's an alliteration with all R's and stuff like that, but it's just simple, right, to me. And I spent a bunch of time working with CROs, CMOs, talking to CFOs, right, trying to figure out like, well, what is it that's going to help us actually just look good, right? We're not even trying to become a hero, but what does it mean just to be a good partner leader, right? And the conversation in Q1 was all about like, well, how do we get more budget and how do we like influence this and influence that, right? And to me, it was, well, let's go ask the people who have budget that could give you budget, right? Or you go talk to the CFO, right? And so the big stat here was that sales and marketing leaders would happily give 10 to 25% of their budget, given that they can see the outcomes that map to their OKRs, right? And so for marketing, it's pipeline, and it's for sales, it's deals, right? And so if we work under that construct, they're happy to give you that budget. The problem becomes in actually building a solid plan to show what you're going to do with that budget, right? Yeah. So if it is you're going to put an event on with a few partners, then show how the event works and like what are the registration goals going to be? What are the registration to attendance goals going to be? What are the attendance to pipelines goals to be? And again, like sales and marketing have this stuff dialed down, right? Mm-hmm. At least from all of the, let's call it like thought leaders that we all know, right? There isn't really like hey, for all of the partner marketing that we all do, and this may be a place where then you can help us all, right? Mm-hmm. Is for all the partner marketing we do, here are the registration to attendee ratios that we see. Just so that there's some guidelines, right? If you have those guidelines and those benchmarks out, I'll give you an example, right? So we did this elevation tour. We had 750 people register and 352 attend. Yeah. So we know that if we do partner events, we're going to get 50% rate, right? Attendance rate. And so if we could get these type of benchmarks in, I'm pretty positive the sales and marketing leaders will give you 10 to 25% of their budget. It's not that much big of an ask. It's just that the plan that's given to them isn't coming across very detailed in detail. And that's where the problem is. And so we took this and then started working with at least our members on helping them understand how to make those plans. And the way we do things is peer learning. So members help each other, and we review P&L statements, we review business plans, and then people go make the ask.
I think that's a great point. I was going to bring it up, but it's you just helped me to bring it in a little bit earlier. The peer-to-peer piece, the sharing of experience piece, because it is the success and the fundamental brilliance of partner-led growth, like kind of the IT industry's best kept secret of the last several decades, because we talked earlier a bit about how the light is shining a bit brighter now. There's this renewed energy around partnerships, and it feels like, as you say, people are peer-to-peer learning, they're sharing experience. We can give a great example of someone like Cassandra Gorston, CEO of PartnerTap, who has built her business based on her experience and is now sharing that, because she was, top sales leader of SAP Concur year on year, because she was co-selling and co-marketing with a number of partners, but doing it manually. Okay, and kind of keeping it to herself, I think, if I recall the story correctly. But now what we're doing is she, through PartnerTap, of course, is using that experience to share it with other people to educate and enable them on the brilliant outcomes that can be done when co-marketing and co-selling with partners as part of a partnership strategy, not just expecting partners to tactically come in and help you when you need it.
Totally. And again, so Cassandra and all the other entrepreneurs that are out there are doing a fantastic job on innovating in the tech stack, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we have companies like Six Sense, Demandbase, Bombora, like Crossbeam and Real. Maybe we probably think of them as data companies, right? Like they're all innovating on the data layer, right? And so there's a lot of like the innovation that's happening on the technology data. Where the innovation is not happening, or maybe the rigor is not being implemented, which is going to be a problem for everybody, right? Is on the people and how do I organize my teams and the processes, like what are the modern ways of actually going to market and building scalable processes for my partner management and my partner marketing and my partner success teams to actually internalize their new identities when they have to manage multiple partner types and really dial it in, right? If that happens and the work that Cassandra and other entrepreneurs are doing happens, then we have this flywheel, right? The people and process side uses the technology and data to scale. The technology and data side teaches the people and process side of the latest things that they're learning from their customers, or the latest failures that they're learning from their customers, so that those people don't make a mistake. And now you have a flywheel within the partners ecosystem, if you want to call it, right?
Yeah.
Because we then self-guide ourselves to success. And then that's actually a way for us to then show up to these executive meetings and work with our sales and marketing peers in a way that they're already used to, because those people are enterprise leaders. Yeah. And at best, you have partner leaders as functional leaders, and it's just a very different world.
Yeah.
At least in my opinion, minus the Ruba Bornos of the world, because I think there's like 50 of them, and when they retire, then I don't know what happens after that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, and I think if bringing it back to the report, because I think this is really, really interesting. If we bring it back to the report and some of the stats that the report shows, for me, what I find really compelling is the fact that there's there's a bit of a disconnect between the theory and the practice, or the theory and the reality at the moment. Yeah, because we're saying partnerships are the way to go. Finding people who have got access to the people that they already know, like, and trust, and they're already doing business there, and they're in an environment that is safe and secure and comfort-led, if you like, and that's the essence of doing business with and through partners. And yet the report also tells us the majority of responses showed less than 10% when they were asked the question, what percentage of new leads are sourced using partners? So we've kind of got this great theory, shared experience, amazing progression that we're seeing in terms of the uptake of the mindset of partnership-led growth. And at the same time, the reality is that at the moment, the leaders within the businesses are not quite there. And maybe that's an adoption. Yeah.
It's totally fine, because again, first you start with like the awareness, right? Like we did a fantastic job of like making people aware, right? And if you look at it, over 57% of sales leaders and over 40% of marketing leaders actually report that they're seeing the impact of partners across the entire revenue funnel, right? From increasing brand to implementations to managing the product. Like there's different ways that they're, right? Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, right, the CFO only cares about revenue, right? And because that's how that's the language of business, and that's how the company runs, right? So all of these activities have to funnel back into either helping acquire a customer, save a customer, or expand a customer, right? And so that piece of it is where I think the partner teams have a slightly inflated view based on the data than what the sales and marketing teams do. And I think this is an enablement problem. It's not that like partner people are just rah-rah and stuff like that, which is cool, but I think salespeople are even more rah-rah, right? But this is more of an enablement thing, because when partner leaders present their story, the inspirational elements of that story are much more heavily weighted than the operational elements of the story, right? Like, so when you talk to partner leaders, they don't necessarily talk in like terms of CAC and LTV and some of the other financial metrics, or for that matter, when they go to planning, they don't talk about productivity metrics or capacity planning, and these hardcore concepts that actually help you become an operator, in my opinion.
I actually would like you to challenge me or agree with me on this next one, because I've got a theory, and it's an opinion, obviously, based on a background of experience in global channel, right? Traditional channel, yeah. And I'm wondering if the uptake and the adoption of the new partnership mindset is kind of stuck in the old channel partner mindset, because typically in channel we run quarter by quarter by quarter by quarter, right? Very tactical, very responsive, having to deal with the needs of the here and now, because the quarter's nearly ended. Especially when we talk about funding, we talk about proof of performance, proof of execution. But partnerships isn't a quick win tactical activity, is it? That might arrive further down the line, but establishing good partnership environments, partnership strategy is more of a long-term play. And when I think you've got that partnership idea that we're talking about now, which is much more strategic and long-term, versus the, if you like, the old school channel partner-led mindset, there's a little bit of conflict there, because quarter on quarter does not necessarily translate into long-term strategy.
Yeah, so I was talking to Andrew Lindsay, who runs BD at Microsoft, right?
Yeah.
We just, partnership leaders just brought on Microsoft as a customer, right? We have Andrew Lindsay's team, right? And so as we were working with the 40 people that report to Andrew and soon to be the 210 people that work on that team, it was very clear that group, which is called strategic partnerships, which most people call BD, is a separate partner type. Yeah. That has a very long-term view on it, right? Versus the go-to-market partnerships, which let's call them channel for the sake of simplicity, right? Do have a much mid to short-term horizon. Also, if your direct customers aren't closing in like 6 weeks, then your indirect customers won't close in 6 weeks, and you can always get the data, get the sales cycles on the channel side shortened as well. But again, I think again, it goes back to the same issue that I keep talking about, is like, do you need partner operators that actually go in, that don't do IC level work, but also do enterprise leader level work, and go in and talk to their companies and say, look, yes, you want partnerships to have a short-term return? Fantastic. We're going to create these go-to-market partnerships, and they will have a short-term return, because now we have a tech stack to help. Like you talked about PartnerTap, right? Like you can use tools like that to go and bring account mapping and co-selling to the market faster, right? But the strategic partnerships have two elements to them. One is you need to be able to connect the dots in the future. And then two, you need to be able to find hidden pockets of opportunity, right? And so both of those things take time, and those type of partnerships are akin to how the CEO is building the company, or how the founder is building the company, because the founder has a view on the market, a view of the future of the world that just doesn't exist, and he's trying to will that in, and strategic partnerships are no different.
Yeah, completely agree. And I think, you've talked a little bit about, education, enablement, and I think that's internal and external, has to be. And I think, we've kind of talked about there being a conflict in terms of perception and mindset. Ultimately,
but just to add
towards adoption.
One thing to your point is also, now, when you're working on these go-to-market partnerships, John Miller actually talked about this in the report. There is this thing called the planning tax, which is very real. And the planning tax exists on both sides of the table. And it is, the effect of the planning tax is felt much higher when you have a partner marketer on one side, somebody who's a specialist in working with multiple companies, dealing with somebody who's not a partner marketer on the other side, that is kind of asked to fit in the role, right? And so now when that happens, all of us have been trained to do certain things when we get to specialization, right? Like a nurse will do something, a doctor will do something else. You don't ask a nurse to go do a doctor's work, and you don't ask a doctor to do a nurse's work, even though you still can do it, right? And so when you have a demand gen marketer on one side and you have a partner marketer on the other side, and the two of them have to work, it doesn't necessarily work, because the demand gen marketer is just looking at a very different view of the world, because they're looking at the customer, and the partner marketer is saying, well, I got to make sure the partner's happy so that the customers are happy as well. And so you need to make sure that the resourcing is done properly on both sides, and there's an environment that then creates, let's call it the partner marketing calendar, which maps to the demand gen calendar. And it totally can happen. A lot of really good organizations are doing it.
Yeah. Very good. Great way to kind of draw the conversation to a close, Asha. I know we didn't actually mention it earlier on, and that's remiss of us. Apologies. But if anybody does have any questions, please type them in quick now. If we're kind of at time, but if we're able to hang on for a few minutes to take any questions or comments from anybody, obviously I'll kind of carry on talking if anybody wants to leave a comment or a question in the chat. So yes, we'll follow up after this. Asha, we've got Catalyst coming up.
Yes,
we'll be coming over from the UK, as will many other people be coming from around the world to the event. You've seen a dramatic increase in registrations, types of organizations that are attending this year. Again, sounds like testament to the partnership movement, gathering much more momentum. Anything you'd like to say about the event as we close?
Yeah, what I'd love to share about Catalyst is, so this year we did two very key things. One, we actually built the event with everybody that bought a ticket early bird. And so we asked them, like, what type of content do you want to see? What type of panels you want to see? What type of people do you want on stage? What type of experiences you want to have? And that's how we created the event, right? And then the next thing we did is we got feedback in January that partnership leaders are very SMB and mid-market focused. And we would love you to actually have a viewpoint, or at least start working with the enterprises the same way that you work with the SMB and mid-market companies. And so we went and looked for a partner. We found Workspan, who was willing to work with us on bringing the enterprise to Catalyst. And that's how we created the Enterprise Summit. And so now we have MasterCard, we have Apple, we have JP Morgan Chase, like we have Chris Casey, who's responsible for industry partnerships at AWS. So like we have all of these amazing. Actually, we have Greg Serafin, who's a very big thought leader in the partner world. We have Jen Gusky. So I mean, the whole thing came together, and the thing that's going to be amazing to see is you're going to have an event where 0 free passes were given out. There's no, even I have to buy my own ticket, right? And then what will be amazing to see is you'll have an event where people that really care about partnering and making a career in partnerships, whether they're an SMB, mid-market, or enterprise, will be all together.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to solve this year. Is just making sure that those people connect in an environment that is already bringing people that care about pursuing a long-term career, right?
Yeah.
If we did free tickets, we would have all kinds of people there. But because we wanted to make sure that we really brought people that cared about investing in themselves, I think about 40% of people that are going to Catalyst bought their ticket from out of their own pocket.
Yeah. Fabulous, and we'll be going. So can't wait to be there in a couple of weeks' time in Denver. Can't wait to see you face to face again and meet up, have a drink. But for now, thanks ever so much for joining us. I know you're busy. Yeah. I know there's lots going on, and really appreciate you taking the time to come and add some context and talk about the report a little bit more, of which we'll be sharing to everybody soon after this. So Asha Mathew, CEO of Partnership Leaders, thanks ever so much for joining. I'm Glenn Robertson, CEO of Pure Channels and founder of Viewpoint, and look forward to seeing everybody again on our next webinar coming up soon. All right, so as for now, thanks ever so much, and we'll see you again soon. Cheers.
Thanks so much, Glenn.